Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of High Energy Girl. And today's awesome guest is the PhD weight loss founder, Dr. Ashley Lucas, who holds a PhD in sports nutrition and chronic disease. She is also a registered dietitian and comes to the field of nutrition and weight management with a unique background as she was previously a professional ballet dancer. Okay, let's go and say hello to Ashley. Hey everyone, welcome to High Energy Girl, a podcast helping women to age stronger because it is never too late to get fit, be strong, and feel sexy. I'm your host, Tracy Gluhide, health coach and personal trainer and founder of highenergygirl.com. Each week, we will either have a guest interview, which will provide you encouragement or an actionable tip to help you age stronger, or I will do a solo episode. Please also join our awesome Facebook group called High Energy Girls, and I'm looking forward to see you on the inside of that group and hope you enjoy today's show. Everyone's always asking me what products do I personally take in form of supplements. And since we know that gut health is very important, let's talk about that first. So every morning when I wake up and brush my teeth, I take a product by Optimizers called Apex. And it is a great product that helps you get into fat burning mode. So if you're just starting off on keto, it's a great enzyme to metabolize fat. Or if you want to use it as a pre-workout to kick your body into fat burning mode, it is fabulous. Next up, after every meal, I take 2 Masszymes and 1 P3OM probiotic. So enzymes help you digest and metabolize your food. The probiotics add healthy, good gut bacteria, and it's a really good synergistic compound. And then if my stomach is feeling a little acidic, which it rarely does, but if it does, if I ever feel a little like acidity, I take the HCl Breakthrough, which adds a little bit of hydrochloric acid to help with your digestion process. So the little valve in between your esophagus and your stomach can close and your body can churn and start digesting. And last but not least, I love their magnesium Breakthrough. And here is why. I take 2 capsules before bed. It is a combo of magnesium chelate, bisglycinate, malate, orotate, taurate, citrate. It's just a big old magnesium blend. It also has manganese and B6. And let me tell you, I score in the 90s on my Oura Ring every single night. So I love Optimizers products. Using the code HIGHENERGY20 will save you 20% off of any of the products from their website. That is BI Optimizers, OPTIMZERS.com/high energy. Discount code is all caps, high energy 20. Hey, Ashley, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks so much for having me. It's my pleasure.
Well, I'm excited to chat with you. So for the listeners that don't know you yet, why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Yeah. Let's see. I started my adventure into the field of nutrition when I was really young. I trained as a classical ballet dancer. I was a professional dancer for many years, and the body aesthetic demands for that sport is really specific and intense. And despite just really watching what I ate and counting calories and fat grams and avoiding all the foods that we've been told aren't good for us, I still wasn't able to achieve the body weight that was required for the sport. And as a result of probably chronically under eating and over exercising, I was injured all the time. So I was met with stress fractures in my feet. I had a really bad stress fracture in my back. I was always sick, always injured. And I look back and know that it was due to just this insufficiency in nutrition that I had because I was trying to get lean enough. And so I had a pretty successful dancing career just because I have an obsession to continue to grow and be as good as I can at whatever I'm in. So I just kept pushing and training, and I danced in nutcrackers, probably 600 of them across the country, and danced with professional companies across the country and did amazing things and had a great time. But I was actually chosen to perform at the end of my career in New York City. And, that's every dancer's dream. I felt like I had finally made it. I flew up there, and instead of finding myself landing in the spotlight like I had expected, I found myself in the ER. And I didn't know what was happening. I thought I was having a heart attack, but after a whole bunch of tests, the neurologist said that I was simply underfed and exercising, moving too much. My body just could not take it. And if I were to do anything for myself, he said that I needed to step away. And so I had to let go of that career. It was my identity. It was all that I knew since I was 3 years old, and I was in my mid-20s. It's what I went to college for. I went to boarding school for it. I mean, that was it. And so I felt like a failure. I felt like I had to step away from my career before I had really made it. I was fearful for my health future because I still didn't feel very good. And I had no idea what to do with myself. So those years were really challenging for me. And that's probably a whole different story. But I ended up going into this career, and I didn't know it would be my career, but just this field of nutrition. I wanted to study what happens to your metabolism when you chronically undereat, like all of us dieters out there. What happens when we chronically diet metabolically? And how do we drop weight in a healthy and sustainable way? And also, and I believe most importantly, how do we do it mentally and emotionally? The habit behavior aspect. How do we create sustainable change? So I went on and earned my PhD in sports nutrition and chronic disease and studied exactly that. What do we do? How do we drop weight? How do we maintain it? And how do we do it from a mental and emotional aspect as well? So I went and studied that, learned a lot, and went on to become a registered dietitian because I felt that would allow me to be this true expert in the field of weight management. But there was an issue there, and the issue was that I was taught all of the same things that I did for myself when I was dancing that did not work. I ate everything in moderation. I had really great discipline. I counted calories and I expended more than I took in. And I still wasn't where I needed to be. And when I was injured and sick. So I basically took everything that I learned from my research and my doctoral work, flipped everything that I learned during my dietetic internship upside down, and asked all these questions as to, why, and couldn't get the answers as to why, and created what we now implement across the country. And this is, my company, PhD Weight Loss, where we really help people drop weight in a sustainable way that supports their metabolism and focuses on the mental and emotional component, with the end goal of being able to sustain it for the long term. So that was a very long story, but that's how I got to doing what we do now, and just love it and have a passion for it.
Wow, that is awesome. And I love how you said flip everything you learned from your RD education up on its head. So what was your thesis for your PhD?
Yes, I mean, what I did was I took recreationally active, quote unquote, normal individuals, and I pair matched them to athletes who chronically underate but moved a ton. They were actually professional ballet dancers. So you would think that the dancers, because they're moving 8+ hours a day, they've got a great amount of muscle mass, but I pair matched the controls, these recreationally active individuals, according to muscle mass. So you would think, again, that the dancers who are exercising like crazy, expending a ton of energy, they'd have a higher metabolic rate, meaning that they would burn more calories during the day than the pair matched person who was just maybe going for a run because they loved it, or playing some basketball, or just being, recreationally active, right? If they're pair matched according to age and the amount of muscle that they have, and the only big difference is how much they move, you would think the person who moves more would have a higher metabolic rate. That's what we're told, right? Well, the professional ballet dancers had a significantly depressed or slower metabolic rate than the pair match controls, meaning that their metabolism was just shut down. Right. So
Interesting.
yeah. And it just shows that we really can impact the metabolism in a negative way if we're chronically under eating and over exercising.
So did you come up with a conclusion as to why this is an occurrence? Like why that
Yeah,
happens?
yeah, because the body doesn't like it, it's an energy efficiency situation. So when the body has low energy availability, meaning that you're taking in less energy than you're expending, the body has to do something to protect itself. And so what we see specifically in women is that we'll get menstrual irregularities, right? Because the body just doesn't have the energy to support a healthy menstrual cycle, because we need calories and energy to do that, to have a menstrual cycle. Because then the goal is, you know, from the body's perspective, to have a baby, and you need lots of energy for that. So it's not going to let you have a baby. And then we also see osteoporosis, osteopenia, low bone density, increased risk of stress fracture. Because again, the body, it takes energy to support the bones. So if we don't have enough energy or calories to support bones, we're going to see these basic physiological functions go away. And those are the first two we see in women. So in the study, I did see a lot of the professional ballet dancers had menstrual irregularities and bone density issues. And the pair match controls would eat significantly more, but weigh the same and do less activity. So isn't that interesting? So it's really just the short answer is a protective mechanism against for the body when it's not getting adequate intake.
Yeah. Like your body's job is to keep you alive. And when you are doing something to negatively impact that, it just holds on to resources.
Right.
So what about hormones? Now, how would hormones play into that?
I mean, hormones are a huge aspect of it, and it's not my specialty, but what we do see is adrenal fatigue start to happen. That does mess with estrogen, progesterone levels, can shoot people into early menopause. So definitely has an impact on hormones.
And like cortisol, like stress hormone, when you're constantly moving, isn't your body constantly under stress?
Yeah, so cortisol levels will go up, and cortisol levels for a lot of people in specific states stimulate more belly fat accrual specifically. Cortisol is really this unique beast, and it can actually take the fat that you have, say, in your arms and your legs, and relocate it into the belly.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that. That's interesting.
I know. And then those belly fat cells have a mind of their own, and they actually can secrete more cortisol at the belly level, at the tissue level. So we don't want to have high cortisol in there.
Yeah. And I would think, like, I remember hearing stories of friends that were like, oh, I'm going to train for a marathon so I can lose that last 10 pounds, only to gain weight with that extra training. And plus
Yes.
they're hungrier, you know?
Yeah. I look at exercise, it's this great wellness tool if you do it right and you do it in a way that's supportive of your unique body, which is different for each person. But it is not a weight loss tool. For many reasons, some of the reasons that you mentioned. Genetically, some people will respond to exercise and drop weight, and others will gain it. I gain weight when I'm training. I used to cycle a lot, road bike, and I would train specifically for this really intense ride in Durango, Colorado, called the Iron Horse. It's 50 miles of crazy elevation, and I would train for that, and I would put on probably 15 pounds during training for that. And it was not all muscle. My body just says, what the heck are you doing? You're not supposed to, you work this hard for that long of a period of time. And definitely impacts my body fat percentage in the direction that I don't love.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to over exercise. I've gone, had the like no period thing where you have to get a shot of progesterone to start menstruating again when I was young. I mean, I'm 56 now, but I've realized now that about an hour a day, most days, is pretty good. Like I work out 6 days a week. from hiking to biking to CrossFit. But over that, like I used to do 3 hours a day and I
Mhm.
weighed the same as I weigh now.
Yeah.
So yeah, law of diminishing returns. So is there hope for people who have broken their metabolism, or maybe they've, like I've had people do that HCG thing and they feel like their metabolism is broken no matter what they do, they just can't drop weight.
Yeah. There is hope. I mean, I've overcome and I've been able to heal metabolically, but it does take time and effort and doing it the right way consistently. So looking at food, not from a calories in and out perspective, but how it impacts the metabolism. Teaching the body how to burn fat for fuel is really the key, not white knuckling weight loss and just trying to eat less and move more. We see people drop weight all the time who have done HCG or very low calorie diets. So it is possible, but you have to do it incrementally, or else it's just not going to work.
So when you say burn fat for fuel, what do you mean?
So the majority of us are carbohydrate or sugar burners. We're burning carbohydrates primarily for fuel. I want you to imagine it like a wood burning fire stove, how you have to shove wood in there all the time or else the flame goes out. And that's how most of us eat. And so we're hungry every 3 to 4 hours. We've been told that if we don't eat every 3 to 4 hours, then we're going to shut down the metabolism, which isn't true. But we're hungry when we're sugar burners or carb burners for that reason, because all we can burn is this exogenous fuel, the granola bar we just took in. That's all we're burning. And I want you to imagine that the fat stores are kind of locked away in a freezer, and you can't unlock the padlock when we eat like this. So all we're burning is what we're taking in. And after that sugar is gone, we need more sugar. And a hormone that's secreted when we are carbohydrate sugar burners is insulin. And insulin is a really inflammatory hormone. It's a fat storage hormone. We don't want to have a lot of insulin in the body. It just doesn't feel good, and it leads to hunger and cravings and weight gain. And also, free radicals are a byproduct of burning a lot of carbohydrates. And free radicals are linked to a whole host of negative health consequences like speedier aging and cancer and long diseases that prevent longevity and good life and health span. So instead, what we want to do is we want to teach the body how to become fat adapted, to unlock those freezer stores I just mentioned and store that fat that might be located on our belly or our legs, our arms. The leanest person has 50 to 60,000 calories of fat on their body to tap into. So it's just this endless supply. But when we're constantly feeding ourselves with carbs, we can't access that. So what we want to do is we want to find our unique carb tolerance level, that level of carbs we can consume, because carbs aren't evil. They're not the devil. We don't have to be keto. I'm not saying that at all. But we all have our unique level of intake of carbs where if we can get underneath that, then we can burn fat for fuel. And nearly every cell prefers to burn fat for fuel. So when we can get into that state, it feels so good. We don't have hunger or cravings. You can go long periods of time and not need to eat. And when you do get hungry, it's more of a dull kind of, gosh, I could eat right now, but I'm not going to die if I don't get food. And fat adaptation or becoming a fat burner kind of resembles to me like this propane fireplace. It's just like this gas tank that's sitting there, and it's much more endless and it's clean, and there's not that kind of sooty, smoky residue. So that's what I mean by becoming fat adapted, not keto or Atkins or any of that, but really focusing on each individual's body and what they can tolerate and still be able to burn fat for fuel.
Well, you say keto as if it's a bad thing. I've been ketogenic for, gosh, probably 6 years, but
Mhm.
I do what I call healthy keto, which I have lots of fruits. I mean, not lots of fruits, but I have berries daily. I have lots of vegetables, nuts, seeds. But I live on a farm. So we have our own chickens and it's a very high quality keto, but I'm not afraid of carbs. But if you're going to be fat fueled, aren't you essentially in ketosis if you're fat adapted?
Not necessarily. So I think that keto is totally fine. And some people really benefit from it. I think that my goal for each person is to live a life that's sustainable. So if some
Mm-hmm.
people can sustain that, for you, it's totally sustainable and feels good. For other people, it just might not be sustainable. So what is that maximum amount that we can take in and not feel restricted, but still not have hunger or cravings? And for some people, and depending upon the metabolic damage that they've had, might need to be in that deep level of ketosis where others can kind of come in and out of it. So, perhaps the 12 hours or 18 hours between dinner and the next meal that might have some berries in it or something, they're going to be burning ketones for sure. But during the rest of the day, maybe with some sweet potato at dinner or something like that, they're not going to be burning ketones. So that's what I mean by metabolic variability, is the ability to kind of go in and out of the
Yeah.
state, but not have to live consistently deep into it to reap the benefits.
Yeah. Oh, I'm totally supportive of that. I just happen to really love big salads with like avocado and all that, good stuff in it. So for me, it was easy to switch.
Yeah.
And I found it for a different reason. I found it because my dad has he had cancer like 5 times. My mom has Alzheimer's. So I actually found it accidentally. And from a long distance runner background, I was like, oh God, no, I could never do that. But then I did a lot of research with like Dr. Dominic D'Agostino, who I'm sure you've heard
Yeah.
about him.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to just try it. And it was super easy to flip the
Mhm.
switch. I basically just gave up oatmeal, um, and eating too much fruit. Like I was eating, because I have 80 fruit trees. So, but I switched to just kind of lightening up. Like I just have a little bit of fruit now.
Right.
So yeah, it wasn't hard for me, but I have like special reasons, but I also love working out fasted. Like I
Mhm.
never could eat before working out because I just felt sick. So let's go back and talk about, so you had an emotional experience losing your identity, which I kind of did too, because I used to be a long distance runner and I finally just had to stop one day because of just injuries. And so I want to kind of hear about how you went from this really rigid, I'm imagining this, like your diet, your exercise regime, to being sick, to how did you recover from that emotionally? And then how does that experience help you with your clients?
Mhm. I mean, it took time, and it took me letting go of that rigidity. And I also, similar to you, I went from dancing to this need to just still expend a ton of energy, and I was used to my body being completely worn out at the end of the day. And without dancing, I didn't get that. So I transferred that into road biking, and I would cycle, 250 miles a week. I was super strong. And so it was kind of baby steps for me. I did that. And then I just found, actually, like, the Primal Blueprint by Mark Sisson
Oh
changed
yeah.
my life. And it was just such a remarkable way of thinking about things and letting go of chronic exercise, chronic cardio, right? And how that made sense to me. So I really let the literature and the research that I was doing help guide me and make me feel okay and comfortable about the choices and changes that I was making. But I
Mm-hmm.
went probably from that to more of a paleo based way of eating, which we know can be really high carb still. And I was just still inflamed and injured all the time and above the weight that I wanted to be. I just felt puffy and probably carrying, I don't know, 15 plus pounds of excess fat weight that I just didn't feel comfortable with. And so that was kind of the first phase. And then I actually got pregnant. And with that, I just continued to make the change, and continued to drop the carbohydrates as I was pregnant. And then after that, just let them go. And I was able to enter into this body composition that I'd never been able to achieve, with less exercise, eating more, and just feeling great. I felt at home in my body, and I could eat so much more. It just felt right. And that you probably experienced the same thing, is when it feels right, you feel better. You don't have to exercise chronically. And so I think it was just little baby steps of a development, and then helping others and seeing other athletes who I was coaching make huge impacts as well. So that was how I transitioned from a nutrition side. And from a mental and emotional side, I had to find something that I was even more passionate about, to replace the passion. And so I think I just replaced one passion with another. And this passion of mine has so much more involvement in service to others, that it's just significantly increased the passion and fulfillment that I had dancing. So they're not even equal. But that period of time, probably about 4 to 5 years, where I didn't have that purpose or that passion, was really difficult. And I feel really grateful that I was able to find even a clear aim and purpose in my life.
Wow, that's cool. I love it. And then, so 2 questions based on that is, how did your body composition change from when you were a dancer, really strict, doing your thing, to where you are when you found that sweet spot with the paleo and, what you described?
Yeah, well, so before, my body fat percentage was higher. It's probably about 5 now, from my leanest time dancing, about 5% lower. I have more muscle than I had then. And where the fat is located, I used to carry a lot of fat, and I still do. My propensity is to store it around the belly, and the chest, but that changed, and has been, much leaner in those pockets where I was just carrying a lot of the belly visceral fat. So that has shifted significantly there.
And would you say that's just from your nutrition changes?
Yeah, I'd say eating underneath my carbohydrate tolerance level, and eating plenty of fat. I remember counting fat grams and being like, the less fat I can eat, the better. And I would have days where it was like 5 grams of fat I would consume, and I'd be like, that was a win.
Wow. And you're chronically constipated. I mean, at least I was when I was living that way. I mean, I remember, like, cause there's nothing to, like, oil the pipes or whatever you want to say, but I remember all that fake cheese, and you look a lot younger than me. But I remember the days of Entenmann's and Snackwells, and they're fat free, so you can eat them, you know? And that horrible fake salad dressing and all that, garbage.
I remember, the instant sugar-free, fat-free pudding, and I would put fat-free Cool Whip on it. And then one of my favorite foods was the spray butter.
Oh, I don't know about that.
You missed out on that.
Spray butter? Was it real butter?
No, there's no way it could be. It's like liquid, no matter what temperature.
That reminds me of a funny story. One day I was at the movies with my mom, who's Alzheimer's, and she likes getting popcorn. And they said, well, do you guys want butter? And I don't normally eat popcorn, but when I go with her, we have our popcorn. And I said, well, is it real butter? She's like, I don't understand your question. Like, what's not to understand? Is either real butter or it's not, it's like, anyway, I thought that was funny. I've seen movie theaters actually put coconut oil as like their butter on their popcorn, which is interesting.
Right. Yeah.
I don't eat popcorn because of glyphosate and inflammation and all of that. But okay. So another question about Mark Sisson. Have you read his book, Primal Endurance?
I have.
Isn't that eye-opening?
It is. It's great. I love it.
So for the listeners, basically what he concluded was he was an Ironman athlete and he used to overtrain like many of us have in the past. And when he dialed back his training and started training less, he started doing better in his racing. So that just tells you that there's that law of diminishing returns. And when you cross over that, you know, it's not going to help you. It's going to like hinder your progress.
Mhm.
So how does a person develop their carbohydrate tolerance level?
How do they figure that out?
Yeah, that's a better word. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. We do it just a little bit by trial and error. We drop carbohydrates down to kind of what I feel like the minimum effective dose is, like how keep it high enough where we don't have to take them all out. And then we just listen to the person and how they're feeling. Usually cravings go away, hunger goes away. We'll talk to clients who've just been totally addicted to food, chained by it, can't stop thinking about it, eating food all the time, just thinking about what am I going to eat next, is that totally consumes them. And when we get them to this level, just this first trial level, and they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about what I was going to eat today. I mean, it's liberating. I really do believe that weight loss is an addiction recovery process. And we're breaking the ties to the foods we say we love that aren't loving us back. And when we play with the macronutrients and the carbs to protein to fat ratio, we can get in the sweet spot. It really just allows the metabolic component of the addiction to go away. And so that's what we're looking at. No hunger, no cravings, and then a pretty sweet speed of weight loss if weight loss is needed. So for most of our women, 2 to 3 pounds a week is a good clip. For men, 3 to 4 pounds a week. If it's lower than that, then I know something's knocked them out of fat burn. Usually there's something that's been off. And that can be eating above carb tolerance level for that unique person, but also if stress is really high and cortisol is up, poor sleep, those are all the other indicators of situations that can impact metabolism. So that's really what we're looking at. No hunger, no cravings. If weight loss is a goal, we should see that drop down. Better sleep, less inflammation, joint pain. I had a client come to me because an orthopedic surgeon sent him our way thinking, he really doesn't need knee surgery. I think there's a way that we can get him to feel better without knee surgery. And he knows the great results that we have with our clients. So this guy has had knee pain that wakes him up at night for years and went into the surgeon thinking he needed to have knee surgery. And within 6 weeks of changing up how he ate, he had no more knee pain. So I don't know, it is very therapeutic, like you said. It extends far beyond weight loss or athletics, Alzheimer's, it can be helpful for that. Cancer, like you said. So there's all these different arms as to why shifting up our nutrition and really looking at carbohydrates and proteins and fats are key. And carbohydrates, it's not that they're terrible. It's just that they have the most profound impact on how we metabolize everything else. They're kind of like this lever that we can pull, and it dictates how our body responds to everything else. So that's why I mention them, not saying, gosh, they're just the devil, but they just have such a profound impact on what our body does and how it responds to it. They're a key player.
Well, my biggest thing about it is the whole, cancer feeds on glucose. That's why you get a PET scan to diagnose tumors or to have them light up. They're the primary feeders on the glucose solution in a PET scan. So to me, if I'm using logic, that's telling me that if you don't eat it, then they're not going to feed on it. Not in all cases, but in a lot. And my dad's doctor said, oh, it doesn't matter what you eat. And I'm just like, really? And so he's sitting at chemo eating cookies and candy and crap. And I'm just, that's why I am not a big fan. But like I said, I do berries. So I want to hear also, Ashley, what does a day in your diet look like?
A day in my diet looks like usually no breakfast. I'm just not a breakfast person, never have been. I really, really love heavy cream. I think it's my favorite food, and I know that's embarrassing to say, but it really is. So I'll have coffee with heavy cream, maybe some MCT oil, maybe I'll throw some collagen powder in there if I feel like I've worked out or need that. And then that lasts me usually till noon, and I'll have some eggs with some veggies or sausage in it. Or maybe if I feel like something cold or I'm rushing around, I might make a smoothie and I'll stick some frozen berries or frozen spinach in it and cream and some unsweetened almond milk in there. And then I might have a mid-afternoon snack, which might be a protein bar or a piece of cheese, something like that. And then dinner is usually some kind of animal protein or fish and some non-starchy veggies and lots of butter or full fat dressing. And I do really like cheese. And dark chocolate. I'm a huge fan of that. And so I'll eat a bit of that too. But that's
Okay.
primarily my day.
That sounds like how I eat. What protein bar did you find that you like?
Let's see. Keto Munch, I think, is a good one.
I haven't heard of that one. Keto Munch.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I'm gonna look that up.
One that I just love the taste of, but might not be the best quality is Power Crunch. That's like a treat.
Okay. I think I've seen that at the stores.
Yes, and like Walmart probably I know that Walmart carries it. Raw Rev Glow is a good one that I like.
Okay. I haven't heard of that one either.
Oh, really? That's a great one.
Can you say it again?
Raw Rev Glow.
Raw Rev Glow. Okay. Have you heard of Julian Bakery?
Yes, I have.
That's the one I've been eating lately. I
Yeah.
just their manufacturing is off. They used to have 3. So like I know that animal protein digests better than like egg white protein or dairy. You only get about 14% of the aminos from egg whites and dairy versus like a beef protein. And they used to have beef protein bars in like chocolate mint, chocolate fudge, and a vanilla. And those actually you get double bang for your buck because you get like 32% of those. Plus they're less inflammatory. So
Yeah.
but for some reason, for the last couple of years with COVID, their production is not like it used to be. But I like it.
I said Keto Munch and it's Keto Monk, MUNK.
Okay. And where do you,
like a kind bar in a way, more nutty.
oh, I like nuts.
Yeah. And I found them at Walmart or Whole
Oh,
Foods has them. So
okay.
those are my favorite ones
Okay.
out there right now. I'm trying to think. And Primal Kitchen, like the collagen bars are pretty good. They're chewy.
Yeah, they're okay. Because I do CrossFit, I'm really looking with something that has like 20 grams of protein or more. And I
Mhm.
find that a lot of those are like maybe 10, 12
Mhm.
something. So
Yeah.
that's why still Julian Bakery is my go-to. And the only other thing in my diet that's different than yours would be I make homemade, the Wheat Belly doctor, that book, the Wheat Belly. He
Mhm.
has a type of homemade yogurt that you make with half and half. So I'll have a half a cup of that every day.
Yeah.
And it's like a grass-fed half and half. So I add a little chia seeds, berries, and a half a scoop of protein powder.
Sounds good.
So what protein powder do you use in your smoothie?
Kion, Kion. I'm liking that one a lot.
Okay, where do you find that one?
What you can get online. It's Ben Greenfield, if you're familiar with him.
Oh, yeah.
And he's
Okay.
got a great amino acid powder that I will put in my water after a strength training workout. One other good company that I like is Marigold, and they have really clean protein powder and some bars you might like.
Oh, okay. I'll have to look for that one. Like marigold, like the flower.
Yes.
Okay. I love chatting with you. Like I'm learning things, which is super fun. Um, so the protein powder I've been using is Equip. Have you heard of them?
No,
So have you heard of the company Perfect Keto?
no.
Oh, they were really, really big maybe a couple years ago, but their first company was called Equip Protein. And what I like is the chocolate has 3 ingredients. It's a grass-fed beef protein, cocoa powder, and stevia, and that's it.
Yeah.
So it's clean. So
Sounds
I've been using that for probably 6 years. So
great. I'll
I
check that.
like I like that one. They have a really good sleep formula that's kind of tastes like a sweet tart.
Oh, interesting. I'll check that
So,
out.
so Ashley, what words of wisdom would you want to tell the listeners that is just like their top takeaway that you want them to get from this conversation?
I guess my top takeaway is just that there's hope to create change if you want it. No matter if you failed or how many times in the past something hasn't worked out for you, and you feel like you've ended up back where you started, it's okay. And that you can, if it's weight loss, you can drop the weight for the rest of your life simply because you want to. No other reason behind it. You just haven't perhaps found the method that worked for you, or it wasn't the right time. But if you want it bad enough, there's hope and there's a way that you can overcome whatever challenges have come your way. So that's the biggest things. There's hope and you can do it if you want to.
Gosh, I feel like in this day and age, just hope is all we have anymore.
Yeah.
So Ashley, where can they find you? Like if they want to, have more information or follow you.
Yeah, our website is myphdweightloss.com. And on there, I have a free ebook right now that people can download that talks a lot about things we didn't cover and some that we did. And so check that out. I think that it's really helpful with some simple practices that people can implement that create big change. And then I'm also on social media, Dr. _Ashley Lucas on Instagram and Facebook, and then PhD Weight Loss. We are also on Instagram and Facebook, and do our best to put up recipes and motivating stories and just helpful tips to create positive change is what we're all about.
So when you say we, do you have a staff that like if they want to work with you guys that they work with, or do they work with you?
We have a big team. So we have 5 offices and a nationwide over the phone program. So we're serving thousands and thousands of people in making this change. So it's not me specifically, although I'm a part and have my hands in everything and help to serve our clients, but we've got amazing teams out there all over.
So is this like something that people can do at home, or do they have to go to your clinic?
While we have 5 brick and mortar locations, we also have a nationwide over the phone at home program that is just blown up over the last 4 months. We've had this program for about 6 years, so it's very sophisticated. But I think just the demand of people wanting to improve their health and take responsibility for their health during everything we've gone through and do it in a healthy, sustainable way where they actually learn about what they're doing and not with just calories in, calories out, and also focus on the mental and emotional component, because I really do believe 80% of dropping weight comes from the mind. And that's what we do. It has just, we have never been so busy, which is really, really exciting. So anywhere we can support anyone who is ready for change. That's the requirement though, is you're ready to work it.
Yeah, you have to be wanting that. That is fabulous. I'm so happy to hear that. And maybe now people are ready to, I don't know, I find it so much more about health and weight, and that weight is a side effect of not so great health.
Yeah.
So maybe people are really wanting to up their game when it comes to health. Maybe that's what your explosion's for, you know?
I think so. And it's exciting. I don't know. We deserve to live the best life and feel good. But the only way that we can change is if we take responsibility for it. No one else can do the work. And so we always are cheerleaders for personal responsibility. We hold everyone's hand, we guide them, support them, hold them accountable, give them all the tools so that they aren't doing it on their own. We take out all the guesswork and the misconceptions wrapped around weight loss because it is complicated. Everyone and their brother professes to be a nutrition expert, you know, with all these different ideas, and no one knows what to do. So we streamline that and make it as easy as possible while each person is taking responsibility and doing the work that's required.
Perfect.
But it's amazing. It's a lot of fun.
Awesome. That sounds good to me. Well, I really enjoy talking to you. You seem like a wealth of knowledge, and I'm so glad you guys are doing good work for others. So thank you so much for sharing your story and coming on the show today, girl.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, that was super fun. What a doll Ashley is, and I really do hope that you go and check her out at her website, myphdweightloss.com, and you can find all her social media links and a direct link to her website where you can get your free ebook at the show notes page at highenergygirl.com/show. Thank you so much for listening, and go out and make it a great day. This podcast contains the opinion and thoughts of its host and guests. It is intended to provide helpful and informative material on the subjects covered. All statements made on the podcast have not been evaluated by the FDA and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. If the listener requires professional assistance or advice, please contact your personal medical doctor. Both host and guest specifically disclaim any responsibility for any liability, loss, or risk, personal or otherwise, which is incurred as a consequence directly or indirectly of the use and application of any of the contents of these episodes. Like I said, this is my opinion and I could be wrong.